to non-native English speaker, sometimes we just don't have the right word to explain everything. There's a saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think today is a good time to visit how we can save 1,000 words by making a good illustration. It's a good way to share ideas and complicated theory as well as methodology. It is really good news for us that graphical abstract is trending nowadays. Welcome back to PhD Coffee Time. This is the online community for you as a PhD candidate to get motivation, peer support, and practical tips during your PhD. And if you haven't already, I hope you will subscribe to my channel. That will make sure you don't miss anything important that will help your PhD. If we haven't met yet, my name is Vera. In the last 2 videos, I talk about why you should publish during your PhD and how to do it in a broken down step-by-step manner, because let's face it, it's all scary when we are just starting. If you have missed the last video, I'll put the link in the description below, so make sure to check it out after this one. I hope by the end of this video, you'll be convinced that it is important to make illustration for your scientific studies. And I will share my personal experience on how I built my first illustration diagram and what are the tools that I think are really useful for PhD. And in the end of this video, I'd like to summarize by giving you an example on a little illustration and how it could be helpful to transform your PowerPoint slides and also your figures in the future. It is a love-hate relationship between the professor that supervises a PhD and the PhD writing and doing illustration. It almost feels like a competing interest between you graduating and you painting on PowerPoint. So, how is my team today? What have you done?
I've spent 3 hours in this manuscript and I was really having a productive day.
Good. Keep it up. And you, what have you done today? I spent 3 hours making a diagram. This is a figure I made.
Interesting.
In this world of being a scientist, I totally understand. Making a figure is luxurious. It doesn't seem like the best use of our time sometimes. Today, I just really want to highlight the reason why, and we should still put some effort to improving our skills, and also to make sure we have some graphical communication for our research. If you make good illustration that is your own work, you can at least repurpose the same work in 3 different professional forms. The first one would be sending it out for a proposal that can get you money. The second thing is you can present it in a PowerPoint. Maybe your next conference trip will be paid by the conference organizer because you win a presentation award. And the third one is, of course, when you publish your final written manuscript, you can always include it as a schematic figure. Nowadays, graphical abstract is popular. They will be included to attract citation to your work. And 2 other personal use is, I think it is important to build personal website. When you are a young faculty, it is important to have visuals that attract your collaborators to connect with you. So having good illustration is going to do that purpose for building your website, as well as building a team when you in the future runs a zebrafish lab or fruit fly lab. If you illustrate your own animal in some way that you can modify it into a Christmas card or a team t-shirt, I think this little thought is going to go a long way in building your relationship within your team. That's just my personal belief. I really appreciate how hard you work. I'm going to give you this lab t-shirt as your Christmas present. Merry Christmas. But I do think having a uniform or some kind of team t-shirt is really cool, and not many scientists thought about that. I hope you're convinced and at least intrigued by the idea of writing with an illustration diagram. So first of all, I hope we are all on the same page on what is an illustration. Illustration is not something you obtain like a statistics or a bar chart or any type of original data, but it is your own graphical way of telling the story of how do you do the work, like a methodology drawing that's going to save you how to write all the steps in the methodology section. Or it could be your own interpretation of the theory of this field, and it could be in a network of mind map or a theory map or pathway map. It is just a human thing that if you have one more level of engagement beside text, you're going to engage your reader a lot more about your research. So to me, the biggest resistance of building an illustration is to use the right tool. I wasn't even using the right tool in the beginning, and that was why I got really challenged by illustrating my science. I was using Microsoft PowerPoint. And I don't know how many of you use Microsoft PowerPoint, but it is not made for the job of illustration. My analogy is like writing an email on your phone and you are texting every word in this little tiny keyboard. It is not the most efficient way, and there is another tool that once you learn it, you will save so much time, and it's really worth your investment of little chunks of your day to learn it properly so that you save a lot of time. So let me just do a little overview of what's PowerPoint and why shouldn't we use it for illustration. First of all, PowerPoint is not made for you to build new shapes. And if you want to create any new shapes and you were really experienced in playing with PowerPoint, you need to join little square and little triangle and using the pre-default shapes. And in the end, you will have many objects on the slide, and it's going to take up memory, and it takes forever to run. Like to move an object, it will be using a lot of your computational space. And to me, my computer has been old, and I have my PowerPoint crash several times when I was using that. And it's heartbreaking when you were in the middle of building a good large illustration map. If you're using the scalable vector graphics as the way to create a diagram, or that memory is stored on the figure is anchoring points and lines that were in the file, and it is a lot more flexible, and it is a ninja level of building an art. I hope this is going to convince you that the speed itself is worth looking at. If you haven't had a crushed PowerPoint, you haven't used enough part yet. And I think at some point you would then consider switching to Illustrator or Inkscape. So in summary, if you use a scalable vector graphic, it will be a lot easier when you need to scale it up to a poster size, or even when people do commercial graphic design. If you have a Nike logo on the building, guess what? Those are scalable vector graphic, and they don't pixelize when you print it out like a building size or a billboard. This is the power of knowing your skills, and make sure your next submission to a journal is not limited by your pixelating figure. You will have a lot more confidence. You can focus on your science and not to worry about this technical problem. So that is why this video I want to show you an example that I built using Inkscape on how I make this nice flask. And of course, how do I change and optimize this one piece of artwork into illustrating one of the most common experimental design and make it an illustration art and innovate your own figure. This is my first illustration when I was in America, and the librarian who teach illustration has shown me this in 3 clicks. 2 rectangle and 1 triangle, and she did like 3 more clicks, and then there you go, there is a flask. That was the moment that I was realizing how much time I have been wasting trying to build a figure using PowerPoint. So say for example, you need to illustrate your research. What you can do is you can change the color of the solution inside the flask to represent experimental condition, that is the control and the drug concentration and maybe temperature differences. and you can have number of replication by copying and pasting the number, so when people visualize it, they will know, they will know your experimental design. And I personally think they are really helpful to visualize and communicate what type of work that you have in the lab. So I hope you will check it out. So I hope this little mini tutorial is going to inspire you to think of your own illustration. And if you do build your own new illustration, I really want to see them. So make sure you let me know in either the comments or go to Instagram, share this with me. I would like to see your illustration on my Instagram page. So if you haven't already, you can find me, and I have written content shared weekly on Instagram. So do check it out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you the next time. And if you haven't already, I hope you will subscribe to my channel. That will make sure you don't miss anything important that will help your PhD.